So good morning once again. So today we are going to start a new chapter from the textbook Fundamentals of Human Geography. So I want all of you to please take your textbooks, okay? Okay. So now we are going to start our new chapter, that is primary activities, right? I think you know there are different types of activities, right? That people are engaged in various parts of the world. So it's actually divided into 4 different groups. One is primary activity, then secondary activities, then primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary activities. So in this particular chapter, we are going to discuss about primary activities. What are primary activities and what types of primary activities are practiced in various parts of the country? Okay, so this is what we are going to discuss today. Okay, so human activities which generate income are known as economic activities. So what are economic activities? Any sort of activities which generate income are known as economic activities. Economic activities are broadly grouped into primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary activities. These economic activities, right? These economic activities are divided into 4 different groups. They are primary activities, secondary activities, tertiary activities and quaternary activities. Okay. So in this chapter we are dealing with primary activities. So primary activities are directly dependent on environment, as these refer to utilization of Earth's resources such as land, water, vegetation. Land, water, vegetation, building materials and minerals. So actually the primary activities which we are going to discuss today is directly dependent upon the environment in which we live, right? They are depending upon the environment, like they are utilizing Earth's resources such as land, water, vegetation, building materials and minerals. So primary activities are dependent on our environment. Okay, it thus includes hunting, gathering, pastoral activities, fishing, forestry, agriculture and mining and quarrying. So in the same way, it includes activities like hunting, gathering, pastoral activities, fishing, forestry, agriculture and mining and quarrying. Okay, so these are the activities in which the primary activities include all these activities. Okay, so here's a question: why are the inhabitants of coastal and plain regions engaged in fishing and agriculture respectively? So why are the people living in coastal plains engaged in fishing? Because the resource which can generate them income, or which can help them for the living is near to them. That is oceans and sea. From that ocean and sea, they can grab the fishes and they can do fishing and they can just generate their income. So that's the reason, because the raw materials for their source of income is just available near to them. So that's the reason why these regions, coastal people living in coastal regions are engaged in fishing. The same way plain regions are engaged in agriculture. Why? Because plain regions are suitable for doing agriculture, right? The plain regions are suitable for doing agriculture. In the same way, this agriculture can help them to generate their income, right? So that's the reason. So next is that what are the physical and social factors which affect the type of primary activities in different regions? Different regions, the primary activities is different, right? As we have discussed, in coastal region, they won't do agriculture stuff. They will be engaged in fishing. Okay. The same way in plain region, they won't be doing fishing because there is no chance for getting any types of fishing activities in this region. So the factors can be both physical and social. Physical factors can be availability of raw material, that climate, type of soil, then transport facilities, then capital. All these things come under physical. Social factors, we can just say that, for example, a particular group of people are engaged on a particular job. From their ancestors, they are doing a particular job. So they just prefer the same job and they just continue generation by generation. So maybe that may be the reason, or otherwise we can say that the particular tribe is staying in a forest or in a mountainous region. So in that case, they have a tradition. They have a traditional job or a traditional activity which they are continuing. So that can be the reason. Okay. Now, do you know, people engaged in primary activities are called red collar workers due to the outdoor nature of their work. They are called red collar workers, right, due to their outdoor nature of their work. And we know that the people who are working in offices and all, they are called white collar jobs, right? they are doing white collar job. Okay, so they are called white collar workers, the people who are working in, who engage in primary activities. Now we are going to our topic, that is hunting and gathering. Okay, so hunting and gathering, I think you know the thing. What is hunting, what is gathering, right? You know the thing. So we are going in detail into it. The earliest human beings depended on their immediate environment for their sustenance. So the earliest human beings, right? Those human beings dependent upon their immediate environment. Immediate environment means the place or the habitat which they are residing on. They were totally dependent upon that particular circle of an area in which they are staying. They subsisted on animals which they hunted. They subsisted on the animals which they hunted, and the edible plants which they gathered from forests in the vicinity, and the edible plants which they were able to consume. Because the earlier human beings who were there, their aim was not to make any economic growth, or we cannot say that it was done in a commercial purpose, right? The only aim for them was to sustain or to survive, and to survive they need food. So for that particular reason, they depended upon the animals. They hunted animals and they consumed them. In the same way, they used edible plants which they were able to eat. Okay. Primitive societies depended on wild animals. So primitive society means societies lived. They always depended upon the animals. Okay. People located in very cold and extremely hot climates survived on hunting. So the main thing the early human beings, so-called early human beings, did was hunting, because that was the only way to survive in this world. Because they would be hunting for food, in the same way they will be hunting for getting that particular, for helping them with that cold weather. They can use the furs and that wools and the flesh of that different animals, so that they can get the warmth and all. So for that purpose also the hunting was done. The people in the coastal area still catch fish, though fishing has experienced modernization due to technological process. Even new modern technologies, even now the technology is in that way that we no need to go for fishing. The humans can, even without going directly to a sea or an ocean, we can just directly control everything from the land itself. There are some control devices have been developed, and automatic ships and anchored ships are being developed, which have the capacity to grab fishes very easily. And we use now in Japan and all, for fishing they use satellites. They can easily find a group of fishes through satellites, and they can just go over there and do fishing, or they can catch fish. So these technologies have grown, but still there are some places where people are now even still continuing that primitive methods and all. Many species now have become extinct or endangered due to illegal hunting, poaching. That poaching is actually, it's like hunting of animals itself. So there are many species which have been extincted, or in the verge of, and they are endangered or in the verge of extinction. There are many animals are there which are in the verge of extinction and all. It's due to the hunting, due to the hunting. Like hunting, as we were just talking about, like the earliest human beings hunted animals for their living and all. But there was a control, there was a balance between that hunting stuff, right? But now what happens, because they used all primitive methods of hunting and also we know that, okay, they will be just using stones and all for killing animals or whatever. So we know that there was the amount of killing, or the number of killing was much less. But now due to high technology and all, the killings have been increased, right? So many of the animals have been endangered. Some of the extinct animals, I can just tell you some which we haven't seen actually. I think you know that mammoths, that woolly mammoths, which looks like elephants. Like I think all of you must have seen that movie series Ice Age. In this, there is like Manfred is there, Manny, Hope you remember Manny. That is woolly mammoths, It's so cute, right? So these mammoths lived in Earth, but they all have been disappeared due to hunting. The same way Caspian tiger, then a pigeon is there. Special category pigeon was there. In the same way, white sharks is an example. Then polar bears, white sharks are important example, because these animals better, right? So these animals have been extincted due to this, the verge of extinction, or have endangered due to this hunting and all. So the early hunters used primitive tools made of stones, twigs, or arrows. So the number of animals killed was limited. I have told you before itself, right? These people used very old and very that there was no technology or anything like that. So they used whatever was there in hand. They used those things for killing, hunting animals. So the number of killings was totally limited. But now, after this technological process and all, the case is not the same, So the number have increased. Why has hunting been banned in India? Why? Simple reason: due to extinction and endangerment. There is a balance between nature and human being and animals, flora, fauna, whatever. So if the balance is being broken, then it will have many, many bad effects. For example, the most important problem which is going to arise due to this is the imbalance in food chain. And the imbalance in food chain can cause many, many problems, that we will be facing in future maybe. So that's the reason. So why has hunting been banned? Maybe this may be the reason. And in India, the Indian Wildlife Protection Act 1972 Wildlife Protection Act was brought, in which hunting was banned in India. Now, gathering and hunting are the oldest economic activity known. So oldest economic activity known to us is gathering and hunting. These are carried out at different levels with different orientation. In the same way, these things are not the same everywhere. So the total the orientation of these things is different in different places. Gathering is practiced in regions with harsh climatic condition. So gathering is practiced in regions with harsh climatic condition. It often involves primitive societies who extract both plants and animals to satisfy their needs for food, shelter, and clothing. So it's all about the needs. It's all about all the needs of the human beings. For attaining their basic necessities, they just used all these things, like who extract both plants and animals to satisfy the needs for food, shelter, and all. So it was like that before. This type of activity requires small amount of capital investment and operates at very low level of technology. So this type of activity, we can know that they are doing this for their survival. So this does not need a huge capital or high technology and all. The yield per person is very low and little or no surplus is produced. So the yield which is gained through these things, like the people, like primitive societies, what they try to do, they just want to survive a particular day. There was nothing like that they want to save it for tomorrow, day after tomorrow, next month, next year, nothing like that. They want to survive now. So for now, what they do, they will just go. If they are hungry, they know that they want to get food. So they just go out and they will just do some hunting stuff, or they will just get some fruits or edible plants or whatever from nearby forest, and they will just carry it to their home, and they will just consume it. It was just for survival. It was not for any types of economical, financial empowerment or anything like that. It was not for that. You can see here, women gathering oranges in Mizoram. Now, the gathering is practiced in high latitude zone. So gathering is practiced in high latitude zone, which include northern Canada, northern Eurasia, southern Chile. And the second part is low latitude zones such as the Amazon basin, tropical Africa, northern fringe of Australia, and the interior parts of Southeast Asia. So these are the places where gathering is practiced. Maybe now it won't be in that much level, but still we can just see the areas where this is being practiced, like high latitude zone, which include northern Canada and northern Eurasia and southern Chile. You can see that Eurasia, this is Eurasia stuff, right? You can just see the Eurasia and northern Canada, southern Chile. You can see that northern Canada and all, you know, Chile, southern Chile you can see, and low latitude zones such as Amazon basins, tropical Africa, northern fringe of Australia, northern fringe, see here, and in some Southeast Asian country means areas. These places you can see that gathering is practiced. Okay, you can see the places. Okay. So in modern times, some gathering is market oriented and has become commercial. But in modern times, the gathering has become market oriented. Okay. Gatherers collect valuable plants such as leaves, barks of trees, medicinal plants, and after simple processing, sell the products in the market. So it has after some decades, what happens? The development or the process of development just takes place in this region, or the primitive people were just converting themselves into the so-called developed or developed human beings. At that time, what happens? These gatherers started to collect those valuable plants, because it has become a commercial market also. So they just collect these valuable plants, leaves, barks and all, and they will just convert them into various types of medicines and all, and they just sell these products in the market. They use various parts of the plants. For example, the bark is used for quinine, tannin extract and cork leaves supply materials for beverages, drugs, cosmetics, fibers, thatch, fabrics, nuts for food, oils and tree trunk yield, rubber, balata, gums and resins. So these things have been, they just started to make, they just started to collect various items which are important for making many things, like quinine. Quinine is a type of crystalline compound which is being derived from a tree called cinnaconn, and this from that what they do, this is very much important for making tonics for fever and malaria, and cork leaf supply material for different beverages, different, and nuts for food, cosmetics, fibers, fabrics, tree trunk yield, rubber, balata, gums, resins, etc. Okay. So the name of the part of the chewing gum after the flavor is gone, it is called chicle. Okay. So we all use chewing gum, right? So that part which after the flavor has gone, that sticky stuff is known as chicle. It is made from the milky juice of Zapota tree. It is made from the milky juice of Zapota tree. But nowadays I don't think that they are using the thing from the Zapota tree. Now everything is like chemicals only. It will be synthetic stuff only, not that from the nature. Okay. During long back, sometimes they would have used this thing, but now I don't think that they are using the same thing. The alternative for everything is been developing every day. That's why the most wanted people in today's world are chemists. The people who are taking PhD in chemistry are in a great demand everywhere, because what happens in chemistry is that if you just mix any of the two chemicals, you are going to get a new product. Definitely, if you are doing an experiment and you are just trying to mix a new two different types of chemicals which nobody has tested it, you will just mix it together. You will find a new thing. You will find a new chemical reaction. So every day, new chemical reactions is being discovered, and by that we know that it can alternate anything in this world, whatever thing is that, the chocolates, the sweets, or whatever we are getting in the shops and all, strawberry flavored ice cream we are getting, strawberry flavored small chocolates we just get, toffees are there, just 1 rupee. But if you just go and buy strawberry, will you get half kilo for that amount? No, you are not going to get, right? So for everything there is an alternative, right? For everything is alternative. So same way, nowadays I don't think that people are using Zapota trees gum things for making chewing gum and all. Okay. Now, the gathering has little chance of becoming important at the global level. So the global level gathering is not that much important. products of such an activity cannot compete in the world market. Definitely, this type of products, as we have discussed, the barks, the resins, corks, quinine and all, it won't be a big thing in world market. The commercial value of these products is also not that much of high, and the amount on the amount or the volume of the product which they are gathering also too small. Okay, so it does not have to do anything with the world market, commercial markets and all. Moreover, synthetic products often do better quality at lower price. As I have told you that synthetic products are there which are of better quality and also of lower prices, have replaced many items supplied by the gatherers in tropical forests. So these things are being supplied by the people who actually live in forest. Okay, their only way of living or their livelihood depends upon these things. But these things, the demand of these things have been reduced because the alternative products of all these things is available in the market, in which is much better in the case of quality. In the same way, the price of these products is much lower than that of the products which they are just bringing from the forest or they're gathering and bringing. Okay, so now we are just moving on to pastoralism. Okay, at some stage in history, with the realization that hunting is an unsustainable activity, human beings might have thought of domestication of animals. So the domestication of animals was the first step towards the development. Okay, so at a particular point, the humans understood that we can't just survive or we can't just sustain with only hunting. So for that purpose, we have to do something else also. For that particular purpose, what they did, they just started to domesticate animals. People living in different climatic conditions selected and domesticated animals found on those regions. So different parts of the world, the total climatic condition is different, the physical condition is different, the terrain, everything is different. So according to that particular region, there are some animals which can be domesticated. So those people started to domesticate animals which are available in those regions. Depending on the geographical factors and technological development, animal rearing today is practiced either at subsistence or at commercial level. So depending on the geographical factors and the available technology, what is happening now, the animal farming, or we can just say that the animal rearing is being practiced in both subsistence level and also for commercial level. Okay, so now we are moving on to nomadic herding. What is nomadic herding? Okay, nomadic herding or pastoral nomadism. Nomadic herding or pastoral nomadism is a primitive subsistence activity in which the herders rely on animals for food, clothing, shelter and transport. So what is nomadic herding? Actually, nomadic herding is a type of farming. We can just say that it's a type of living, like in which they are dependent upon the animals for their food, clothing, shelter, tools and transport. They move from one place to another along with their livestock depending on the amount and quality of pastures and water. So what happened? With their livestock, they move from one pasture to another pasture or one area to another area in search of water and pasture. Okay, so actually the main reason for pastoralism or nomadic herding is that it is carried out mainly to produce food for the family or to fulfill the basic needs. Basic needs of shelter. Shelter means clothing and food. For that purpose only this is practiced, and they are mainly depending upon some animals like sheep, goat, cattle, camels, etc. And the movement is to find fresh pastures. Fresh pastures are very much important for grazing of animals. So the movement is for grazing purpose only. Okay. So each nomadic community occupies well-identified territory as a matter of tradition. So each nomadic community have their own boundary or their own territory. Okay. So you can see a pic, nomads taking their sheep up to the mountains at the onset of summer. So during summer what they do, they will just move on to the nearby mountains. Okay. So a wide variety of animals is kept in different regions. In tropical Africa, cattle are the most important livestock, while in Sahara and Asiatic deserts, sheep, goats and camel are reared. So in different area we can find different types of cattle, right? In tropical Africa, cattle are the most important livestock. In tropical Africa, cattle are the important livestock. While in Sahara, what happens? And Asiatic desert, it's sheep, goats and camel are reared. Okay. In the mountainous areas of Tibet and Andes, it's yak and llamas. And in Arctic and subarctic area, it's reindeer. You know, llamas are actually, it's look like a camel. You know, you can just search in Google, you can see the pic also. It looks like a camel stuff, and it is seen in the Andes and all. And in Arctic and subarctic areas, it's reindeer. You know, reindeer and all, right? So these are some of the important animals which are used for nomadic herding or pastoralism. Okay. So we'll do one thing, guys. I will conclude here.